We're here, and I want to thank everybody for coming, and let's start off by giving yourselves a big round of applause. For me, this is quite an historic moment because it's the first time that I've done an Immigrant Heritage Award ceremony in this district, and I don't think that it's been done officially in this district before. I know that tomorrow morning the mayor will be doing one, and we've been joined by Commissioner Fatima Shama, who is heading up that citywide effort. But I think it's also very, very important that we do something here on the local level, because it's really local things that change the world, I think. And that's the way that I've always tried to operate, one person at a time, and changing the world by working on a very local level. And so tonight we have 7 honorees, people who have distinguished themselves in this community, in my district, in Queens. We try to stay focused here on what's going on here locally. And they come from all different walks of life. Some are business owners, some are activists, some are housewives, some are whatever field it is that they are in. They have done something which has benefited our immigrant community. And when I say our immigrant community, really I'm talking about everyone who lives in New York City and everyone who lives in the United States of America. Because ultimately we are all immigrants. And this is a country of immigrants. And it is immigrants who made this country strong, who built this country, and who made this country what it is today. You know, my family came from Ireland, and they landed on 46th Street in Sunnyside. It was very ironic and funny that after my parents did the traditional, you know, my great-grandparents landed in Sunnyside, built their own home. My grandmother moved to Rego Park. That was the step up for them at that time. Then my mother moved out to the island, you know, which was the next step up. But as her son, I returned back to our roots. And I taught in Sunnyside for 25 years. And I taught the sons and daughters of immigrants. And I have to tell you, it was the most wonderful experience of my life to be privileged to be entrusted with the lives of those children. And it was a beautiful experience. And when you teach the children of immigrants, they have such respect for teachers. And I gotta tell you, there's a lesson that those immigrant families need to teach the rest of America. In some ways, I used to encourage my parents, you gotta challenge the system a little bit more, you know? You gotta fight a little bit more for your rights, because for our immigrant parents, they came in and the teacher's word was gold. What the teacher said was what the parents did, because that's how high our immigrant community places education in their lives. And I would talk to my children oftentimes in the class and ask, why did your parents come here, you know? And number one was because they wanted a better life for their children. And oftentimes, and most times, the better life for their children meant that education, getting that education and being successful here in the United States of America. So when I ran for New York City Council, I ran against an incumbent, quite frankly. And it's difficult to beat an incumbent in any position. But I felt that our immigrant communities in particular were not getting the attention that they would do in this community. And I reached out to the immigrant communities and to the LGBT, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities to build a coalition of people who had felt the sting of discrimination in their lives. And I knew that I could relate, even though I'm a white guy who used to have blonde hair and blue eyes, because I too have felt that sting of discrimination. When you've done everything right, when you fought so hard in your life to move forward, and somebody tells you no, just because of the way you look, or because of the color of your skin, or because of your belief that you can't do something. And I knew how wrong that was. And during my campaign, and I'm looking at Manami now, we had one forum in particular, it was the South Asian Community Forum, where people came in and asked me questions. And I think for me, that was a turning point. I did want to make the road also, but we did several immigrant community forums. And somebody asked me, Danny, why are you doing immigrant community forums? They cannot vote. Well, some can, but not all can. And we want to change that too, by the way. That's a piece of legislation that I have in the City Council to change that. But my answer was because they can organize. And that is exactly what happened right here in this community. And I owe the immigrant community everything, because that is the community, or the communities, who put me in office and who got me to this position. We were able to coalesce and to build those coalitions to make sure that the priorities for this community were changed and that the needs of our immigrant communities were met. And that goes from reorganizing the priorities in terms of the funding that I was able to provide to the community, to also the feeling, and I hope that it's true, that my office doors are open to everyone. And we see on a daily basis many, many immigrants who come in, who need legal assistance, who may have never before been in the doors or opened into an elected official's office in the city of New York. But I'm fortunate I have an excellent immigration attorney in Sebastian McGuire, who's here with us also, and who has played a major influence in shaping my immigration policies in New York City. And they are made to feel welcome when they come in that door. And after I was elected, I was asked by the Speaker of the City Council, what committee would you like to chair? And some elected officials say, well, you know, I want to be finance. That's a very high profile. I want to be education. Well, I was a teacher, and maybe someday I would like to be education too. But you know, I said what I'd like to do is to chair the immigration community, because I felt that the issues of the immigrant community are so interrelated with all of the struggles of people for equal rights and for civil rights and for human rights in the city of New York. So if we are fighting for immigrant rights, if we are fighting for LGBT rights, if we are fighting for Asian or Latino rights, whatever it may be, we have to coalesce if we are in fact going to win this battle of acceptance for all and bringing new Americans into this country and welcoming new Americans. And two pieces of legislation that I'm very proud of that we were able to pass that went through my committee. The first piece of legislation that I passed as a city council member was legislation that deals with children who are in foster care. Children who are eligible for special immigrant juvenile status. A status that was eligible since 1992 for these children. If you're in foster care, children can get set on that path to citizenship. And to me, that's a very important gift to be able to give to a child. But through our hearings and through working with the mayor's office and Commissioner Sharma, we found out that ACS, the Administration for Children's Services, were missing certain children. And part of it was because we didn't want to label or to discriminate against those who might be undocumented, and we wanted to make sure that their rights were respected. And we were able to find a way to identify who those children are who may not be, or who may be eligible for special immigrant juvenile status. And since the legislation has passed, since the bill has passed, over 400 children have been helped. And that is a tremendous benefit for New York City and for our country. And the second piece of legislation, that we were able to pass was dealing with ICE on Rikers. You know, I had a young man who came into my office and he sat down and he said to me, Councilman, he said, I was arrested on Roosevelt Avenue. I did nothing wrong. He said, I'm a student in one of the local community colleges. He said, but you know, my parents brought me here when I was 4 years old, no fault of my own. He said, and after I was arrested, I was brought to Rikers Island because it was a very serious charge. And while I was at Rikers Island, ICE agents came and interviewed me. And I didn't know. I didn't know whether I should talk or I shouldn't talk. You're in an environment where you're not really sure what to do. And he spoke to the ICE agents, unfortunately, because even though the charges were dismissed against this young man, because he had spoken to the ICE agents, ICE then put a detainer on him and sent him to Texas for 2 years. And as we probably all in this room know, because immigration is a civil matter, you're not guaranteed an attorney, you're not guaranteed a phone call, you're shipped away to places far away from your families, and it's extremely difficult to survive. So my legislation, working with the mayor's office as well, and with John Feinblatt, special advisor to the mayor and the commissioner, again, we made a decision, we changed the law to say that if a person is found innocent, or if they have the charges dismissed against them, or even for a minor marijuana violation, because we see a lot of that happening in our communities as well, we are no longer going to hold those persons for ICE for the 48 hours that ICE had to come and to take them and put them into a detainer camp. So I think that both of those pieces of legislation are things that will have a direct impact upon our immigrant community. And finally, I would say that as the chair of the Immigration Committee in the City Council, and probably the Commissioner shares some of my same frustrations, is that we only can work on the local level. And that goes back to what I said in the very beginning of my speech. Because immigration, for the most part, is a federal issue. But we are committed, as I'm sure the Commissioner is as well, to finding ways within New York City to make life better for our immigrant communities. And whatever we can do here on a local level is what we share in terms of our goals for this immigrant community. So it's indeed with great pleasure tonight that we're able to acknowledge just a few of the people who have contributed to our immigrant communities here. And we're going to present them with some citations, official city citations, which I can do now that I'm a city council member. And then we're going to have a little entertainment, and then we'll continue with the ceremony as well. But before we actually get started with the distribution of the citations, I'd like to bring up someone who I'm so happy is the Commissioner for the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, somebody who it's so easy to work with. From the day that I met her, when I was first elected chair of the Immigration Committee, I knew that we would get along famously. And that's because she, even though she is a high-level commissioner in the Bloomberg administration, has always maintained her connections as an activist and her connections to the immigrant community. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Commissioner Fatima Sharma. Let's give her a big round of applause.
And I'm so happy actually that I do get to look out and I see a lot of familiar faces. And actually reading the bios of those of you that are being honored today, really am honored to be with you because you're incredible people who make our city that much more incredible. And so I actually just have the joy of being able to say thank you. I do want to say the thing that is most amazing about this city and the people actually work together is certainly from the space of immigration. We get to celebrate where all of you are from. We really try our best to ensure that we do that. Tomorrow we start and kick off, Mayor Bloomberg will kick off tomorrow morning, Immigrant Heritage Week. This is its 9th annual celebration. It's on April 17th because in 1907, a little over 11,000 people were processed in one day in Ellis Island, on that one day, April 17th. The greatest number of people who were processed coming into this country in 1907, which is what marks this time to be so special. But my parents came to this country in the 60s and had high hopes for what they would achieve. And their high hopes were actually in their children. But my parents never thought government was a good thing, because the countries that they came from, unfortunately, governments had failed them. And the thing that I think is so incredible is two things. One is that I actually work in government, love the work that I do, but I do it because every day I know that I have the responsibility to make life better for all of you, for all of your children, and for all of your neighbors. And as hard of a job as that might sound, it is the best job in the world. And as my colleagues from Elmhurst Hospital can tell you, they are amazing people who every day wake up to make sure that they serve you in the most amazing and most profound ways. And I bet that everyone we come across in this hospital is pledged to do the exact same thing, including the person who's going to be honored today from Elmhurst. But the other thing that I think is pretty powerful about that is that I get to work with Councilmember Danny Drain. And when people think, you know, oh, she's in the mayor's office, she doesn't talk to her, that's not true. We talk all the time, we work together, we gave you a couple of examples of how we really work together. That is, in fact, the beauty of how this stuff gets done. It's in partnership, and it doesn't happen without community, and it doesn't happen without one another. And so you're being honored today, and you deserve, the 7 people that are being honored, deserve those honors. But for all of you, this is your moment to really celebrate not only the people around you, but who you are and what you bring, and actually what you will continue to bring. Whether it's in continuous conversation with a council member, whether it's in conversation with me, or in actually bringing us together. Right? Because that is what we aim to do, it's what we aim to build, it's the city we aim to have. So, happy Immigrant Heritage Week. Congratulations to the people that are being honored today. I'm delighted to be here with you and to celebrate you. I look forward to continuing the great work we can do together. Thank you.
So for Narbada Chetri, for your outstanding and valuable contributions to the community in which you live, you are the embodiment of immigrant spirit. Serves as senior community organizer for Adhikar, a New York-based nonprofit organization working with the Nepali-speaking communities to promote human rights and social justice for all. She leads the organization's Workers' Rights Program. Prior to coming to the United States in 2006, Narbada worked as a human rights activist in Nepal for 15 years. And the work that you are doing in the community is so vitally important. I must say, unfortunately, that almost on a weekly basis, we have people who come into my office who have been victims of wage theft or underpayment of wages. And this remains a very big problem in our communities. And we are so glad to have you out there fighting for the rights of all of our workers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilman Danny Drain and Fatima Sena and all distinguished guests. And I believe in teamwork, so I would like to introduce my respected brother, Dr. Tara Nirola, my son, Pradeep Thapa, and my steering chair committee, Prabha, and all my friends, and my board member, Mamta Guru. So, thank you so much.
It gives me great pleasure because it goes to Jorge and Lila Alvarado, who are the owners of City Coffee. And I had a personal hand in this one because City Coffee is my kitchen. Now, I do not have gas in my apartment. So literally, City Coffee is where I go from everything from a bacon and egg sandwich in the morning and a Diet Pepsi, as they know, to chicken soup, which always makes me better when I'm sick. But they really represent something to me, which is the immigrant spirit and entrepreneurship in this community. Because they came from Trujillo, Peru, and they met 31 years ago at the Peruvian consulate. After learning his trade in several restaurants around the city, Jorge opened City Coffee in Jackson Heights, Queens, a restaurant whose diverse clientele reflects the neighborhood which it serves. Jorge is proud to be recognized as a successful immigrant entrepreneur, and that's really true. It is like you know, like the mini community center. You go into City Coffee and everybody and their brother is in there. So congratulations to both of you.
Más cómoda, ok, yo les agradezco mucho la nominación para nosotros, felicito a los demás nominados y premiados y que Dios les bendiga a todos y muchas gracias por vuestro apoyo.
Goes to Teresa Arieta. And Teresa is my good friend from the New York City Participation Organization, and we first met also, I think, when I was running for office, but maybe even before then. And she has been a wonderful community organizer. She knew how to work the system as well. And she came to me and she said that they needed translation equipment for the community board meetings. And I said, you know, isn't that a great idea? Because if we have that translation equipment, our Latino community in particular, but actually anybody, because the translation equipment can be used for any language, would be able to sit through a community board meeting and understand and participate. And that's the name of the organization, Civic Participation. And so, Teresa, this is why we are so happy to be able to honor you today. Let me just read a little bit. Teresa Arieta works for La Fuente as a community organizer. Previously, she had worked in health education, serving as an organizer under the Latino Religious Leadership Project of the Latino Commission on AIDS, as well as Jamaica Childhood Asthma Initiative. Teresa has been active within the immigrant rights movement in New York City since she emigrated from El Salvador in 1996. Felicitaciones a usted, Teresa.
Lo voy a decir en español y después lo en inglés un poco. Es un honor para mí recibir este premio. En realidad es para los demás compañeros inmigrantes, los organizadores que estamos trabajando en esto desde un buen rato. Tengo el honor de recibirlo con humildad y les digo de que para mí es un premio grande porque es para nuestra comunidad y creo de que voy por el buen camino porque hay muchos más que están haciendo lo mismo. Les quiero decir que el trabajo con la comunidad es bien leal, es algo que cambia las vidas, como me la cambió a mí. Desde que vine a El Salvador en el 96, vi que había necesidad de un cambio y averigué cómo podía involucrarme. De esa manera lo he venido haciendo desde que estoy en diferentes ramos de inmigración y también en la salud, porque creo de que nuestra comunidad está necesitada y es una de las formas que podemos hacerlo. Y de nuevo muchas gracias por el honor y lo recibo con humildad. Bueno, I just want to try to say everything what I said in Spanish and in English. It's an honor for me to have this award. I've been working in the community for 1996 since I immigrated from El Salvador. And the reason I enjoy the first group gave me the opportunity to work as a volunteer for a couple of years was Centro Hispano Cuscatlán, and that was the good organization in Jamaica where I worked as a health advisory and also gave me the opportunity to know more about my rights here in the United States. That was my first time. I didn't know anything because I come from a country we don't have that right. And what I thought when I know I was away, where can I be involved to do something for the community, I say I'm going to enjoy because that's the way our community needs to someone to speak up and also need more information about the rights. And I feel like I'm going the right way, and I feel to more compromise that to continue to doing my work. Thank you.
Sandra Geraldo. Sandra is the Assistant Director for Patient Relations at Elmhurst Hospital Center. She has raised over $2,000 as a team captain in the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's fundraising walk, Light the Night. She has been the recipient of numerous awards, including the Elmhurst Hospital Center Shining Star Award in 2010. And she is the Assistant Director for Patient Relations, a very difficult job at times. And I just made sure before I brought her up here that my mother's bill was cleared and that she didn't tell you how to run the hospital.
Kind of term that's been taken care of, so he doesn't have to worry about that. When I was selected for this award, I started thinking about the time that I've been here in this country. And it's just a moment where you really think about all the struggles that you have gone through, and at the same time, all the good things that have come out of those struggles. And one of them is basically to have acquired an education in this country, and now to be working at Elmhurst Hospital. And I feel that my work here, I feel that I'm in a privileged position working in the patient relations department, because when you come to the department, we try our best to advocate for you, for your rights. Sometimes we are in a difficult position because we work for all of you, but at the same time we work here in the hospital, so we have to be the mediators. And I think that we do a pretty good job in my department. I want to thank all of you. I feel very proud to be part of the select group of honorees tonight. And I want to say a special thank you to Victor Snyder, who's seated all the way in the back. But I have learned, he's my supervisor, and I have learned a great deal from him through all my years at Elmhurst Hospital. And I do want to say thank you to Jane Merker, because she did believe in me when I started working. I actually initiated working here at Elmhurst as a volunteer. Then I started working in the patient relations department. And I do see the support of some of my Elmhurst Hospital colleagues, so I do want to say thank you to all of you, to Mr. Constantino for the support. Ms. Sullivan is here tonight as well. So I'm going to say that very briefly in Spanish. Quiero agradecerles a todos por estar esta noche aquí. Me siento muy contenta y honor. Me siento que esto es un gran honor por ser parte de este selecto grupo de personas que están siendo seleccionadas para esta entrega de este premio. Comparto con ustedes el hecho de que como inmigrante en este país hay muchos desafíos que hay que pasar, pero siento que esto es un incentivo para seguir adelante, como para mí y para todos ustedes, en nuestra lucha por seguir en este camino para la mejoría, el porvenir de todos. Okay? Thank you.
Goes to a good friend of mine who is the former chairperson of Community Board 3, and that's Vasantrai M. Gandhi. Everybody knows him as Mr. Gandhi, or Mr. 74th Street. He was one of the first Indian Americans to come and to organize along 74th Street, and he has been a strong ally and supporter of mine ever since. And a role model and a pioneer, I might add, for making sure that the South Asian community is included in all of the civic activities that go on in our neighborhood. So I would like to just read this here as well. Vasantrai M. Gandhi, philanthropist and past chairperson of Community Board 3 Queens, has been a New York business owner for nearly 30 years. His business, New York Gold Company, has been ranked as one of the top 100 Indian American businesses in the United States of America by Ventures International Incorporated. He is the recipient of many awards, including the coveted Forbes Enterprise Award. So without further ado, I'd like to present this to Mr. Gandhi. Congratulations.
Danny has already introduced me, so I don't have to repeat the same thing again. But our program started with a recitation by a poet. So leaving aside my otherwise prepared speech, I would like to recite a couplet, if not a poem. And we, all of us, are living in New York City, where we are very closely intertwined with our transportation system, MTA. And this is about MTA. I'm a regular commuter by MTA. I don't own a car, and that's the only alternative. The train stops. doors open, eyes meet, smiles exchange, heart throbs. All of a sudden, the curtain drops, the doors close, and as usual, I curse MTA, not for the delay, but for the efficiency by which the door closes.
Goes to a very special friend of mine, someone who I've had the privilege of working very closely on an issue that's of major importance to me. And that is Manami Malik, and she is with an organization called DRUM. And the reason why I say on an issue very important to me is because we have seen a lot of discrimination, a lot of prejudice, a lot of misinformation, a lot of villainization of our Muslim community in particular, our South Asian communities. And Manami has been on the forefront in fighting that battle to change that perception, to change that image, and to fight, particularly for the Muslim, for all South Asians, but in particular on the Muslim issue. And you know, as someone who has experienced discrimination in their life, myself as a gay person, I know firsthand what that feels like. I said that a little bit earlier. And that's how I relate to these issues. And so, Manami, you were a natural choice for us, and let me read your bio here as well. Manami Malik was born in Kolkata, India, and grew up in the Bronx, New York. She has been an immigrant rights and social justice organizer for over 16 years. In 2000, Manami founded DRUM, Desi's Rising Up and Moving, one of the first low-income South Asian community-based organizations for social justice in the United States, and currently serves as the organization's executive director. Congratulations to you.
To Councilmember Drum. You know, I want to say, I think we should give the council member a huge round of applause for being one of the strongest allies. It's very, very rare to find someone like you who so willingly and openly comes to community events, supports communities. We don't even have to ask most of the time. You're there, you're on the front lines. And you know, it was very ironic and wonderful when you were elected to our district and everybody thought somehow our organization, DRUM, orchestrated Councilmember Daniel Drum getting elected. We wish that we were that successful or effective, but you know, it's been 12 years that we've been in this community. We're such proud members of this community. I'm so proud and honored to be recognized with all of you amazing leaders. And we are, you know, we feel like there's so many issues that all of us can unite on and do unite on, and we're so happy to see in the last 12 years the resurgence of organizing amongst immigrant communities, especially in Queens. 12 years ago, we felt like we were one of the only immigrant organizing groups, and now look at this room. This is wonderful. This is what we want to see. And I personally am really honored to represent Queens, Jackson Heights, immigrant New Yorkers from Geneva and the United Nations to Congress. We have members in Congress this week talking about the End Racial Profiling Act. But I'm always humbled, and at the end of the day, the people who inspire me and this award is dedicated to are the immigrant women, men, children, workers who are brilliant, courageous, and keep fighting for justice. I want to thank all of the members of DRUM. Thank you so much for teaching and inspiring every day. And I think, as the poet before said, we all learn from our mothers, and all of our communities have courageous, brilliant mothers, and these guys are like all of my mothers as well. And just one last note that as I just came back from a unity conference in Mississippi with the Mississippi Immigrant Rights Alliance, and they have this wonderful model of the immigrant communities joining forces with the African American communities that have traditionally worked for civil rights. And that's something we feel like as an immigrant leader, I have learned so much from the civil rights movement in this country, and know that we are here because so many people in the African American community have done this for many years, and we hope those bridges go deeper and stronger. Thank you.
To present this to Jesus D. Puerto, or I know him as Daniel. And Daniel is an organizer with Make the Road New York for their LGBT program. And he does exemplary work. I was at their meeting maybe 2 months or so ago, where we were working very closely, especially with members of the transgender community. And the harassment that the transgender community faces from the police department along Roosevelt Avenue. And I have to tell you, I was just amazed at the number of people that you had in the room. The place was packed, and I just admire the work that you're doing, Daniel, and the courage. As an LGBT person, for me, that is so vitally important that we make those connections, and you are doing it. I'm very proud.
So I kind of thought about what to say this morning while I was showering, because I hadn't had any other time to really take in depth that this was happening, right? And the first thing that came to my mind was being honored to stand and work so closely with somebody like Daniel Drum. When I think of Daniel Drum, I think of a friend, and immediately a smile just comes to my face. Anywhere that I see him, which is everywhere, I always have to go and say hello and just give him a hug, and it's overwhelmingly joyful to, as a gay immigrant person, to have a model to look up to, somebody that does such inspiring and great work for our immigrants' rights. I remember last year, and I'm sorry, I'm just like very full of overjoy. Last year, we're mobilizing a documented transgender woman to stop and frisk is pretty damn difficult. There's one when documented, most of them are doing sex work during the night. And I'm sure that waking up on a 30, 40 degree morning in November and during the conference to stop and frisk was something that it was a little bit rough for them. And when we got there, they were powerful, they were ready to raise their voice. And when Daniel Drum acknowledged them, I looked around. I care a lot about my members, especially my transgender and undocumented members. And the look on their face was something that I've never seen in my life. Such a joy, because they were being acknowledged. They were being people, and they were being people who were doing something for the community. This smile, this joy came from you, Daniel. And ever since then, transgender women have taken lead in most of our organizing work. And I'm speechless. Words cannot describe how honored I am to have met you and to be working closely with you. As a young person working with an organization that has over 10,000 members, being gay is not the easiest thing, especially when these are newly immigrant folks into the country. And I think that looking at somebody like Daniel and speaking to my family about a gay man who's not a hairstylist, which I come from Colombia, and in South America we have this perception as gay men only being able to do hair. And telling my mom who Daniel Drum is, and my mom knowing who Daniel Drum is without meeting him, is something that it's very, very important to me. So, thank you so much.
has motivated me to want to run for city council and to want to be your representative in the city council. And this is what gives me pleasure. Some people said that they see me at a lot of events. I come to the events because I enjoy being at the events, and that's really the main reason why I come. So, but I know that it does matter to people as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if we told you before we gave out the awards that there was a catch, a hook, and the hook is this. Now that you've received an award, you have to go out and continue to organize and to continue to challenge society on the issue of immigrant rights. Many of us became discouraged when 2 years ago immigration reform did not pass on the national level. But the job is left to all of us. And so, you know, what I wanted to do with these immigrant awards here tonight was to motivate people on a very local level to say that the organizing that you're doing can really, in fact, change the world. Thank you all for coming tonight, and it's been a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you very, very much. Could we get all of the honorees up to the official photo, please? We have a poetry presentation by Shweta Shavastava Viklan, and is an award-winning poet, writer, novelist, author, essayist, columnist, educator, and blogger. Blogger is very modern. Born in India, Shweta spent her formative years between India, North Africa, and the United States. She is the author of 4 chapbooks of poetry, 2 collaborative collections of poetry, a novel, a non-fiction book of prose and poems upcoming in 2012, and a full-length collection of poems upcoming in 2013. Shweta lives in Queens, New York with her husband, and she will read the following poems this evening: Talisman and We All Become Our Mothers. Very interesting, because I was just talking to the hospital personnel about my mother. So let's see what it's all about. Thank you very much.
Everybody from your team who's put this evening together is just amazing, and I'm just honored being in this room filled with such incredible people. So could we get a round of applause for all the amazing things happening? As Councilman Trump just mentioned, I'm going to be reading 2 poems tonight, and they speak to the hybridization of cultures, the identity of women, all from a very immigrant perspective. And given next month is Mother's Day, I thought I'll also bring in the mom angle. I guess Sabay, she's disappointed I can't wear the sari as well as you do, but I did decide to wear a kurti and make her proud. But more than anything else, I just believe that irrespective of where we come from, you know, that relationship with your parent speaks volumes for how we see our own immigrant experiences. So the first poem is We All Become Our Mothers. Perhaps I would do it differently. I always thought, when I heard the tide of my mother's displeasure pour into pores of my teenage rebellion, the rolling of the eyes right to left at dirty dishes strewn like dead squirrels outside notorious high schools, the finger tests for sprinkles of dust, as if they were ashes of dead crustaceans spilling through hell. Traditions mummified in every breath, a beetle chasing perfection, defoliating stems of time, until her health was reduced to bare bones. Wearing my belly button ring of defiance, I made sure, as the sun burning the east, every morning, that my years were like rocks, impermeable and calcified, with no room for ants, just moss of impetuousness. I believe nomadic life would be settling. Nauseous my pen would feel if I ever bled a permanent address next to my name. I wake up 15 years and 150 arguments later in my apartment at 6 a.m. to the smell of lemon pledge and a view of cirrus staring every winter night, minutes synchronized with fine china reflecting the shadow of my genes. I concede the larva comes from the infallible egg. Every writer is asked which is their favorite poem, and it's like asking a parent who their favorite child is. So we all have one, we just don't say it out in public. This is the poem, The Talisman, from my book Kaleidoscope. It's one of my favorites because I almost felt like I understood my lineage, my heritage a lot better after I had finished writing this poem. You know, when I moved here, my mom was all about, you need to take this, I bought that. And I was like, seriously, you're going to give me Corel and I'm moving to a country which makes Corel? Like, this conversation doesn't make sense. But I hope this poem does. The Talisman. Through countless arguments, 3 generations, 65 years of marriage, and travel across 4 continents, the eternal silver tea set stood in my face. In an apartment with just enough room for my thoughts to breathe, it touted its own space. I part admired, part envied its confident, elegant body, and the love handles that had aged with perfection despite my neglect. At times I dreamt of tossing it into the horizon so the unison of the blues would engulf it, but my hands felt culpable. I thought maybe it would sense my abhorrence for it and disappear, or maybe not. Like a mole on the hip, it stood unmoved, sharing history of the hands that had caressed it, the hearts that had seen their future in it, the lips that had tasted the nectar brewed inside, the souls it sewed together, legendary women from my family tree. Thank you.
Roldan is our guitarist, Colombian-born guitarist, and has performed in Russia, Argentina, Spain, Colombia, Paraguay, and throughout the United States. He has 4 recordings, all of which are available and can be heard at cdbaby.com. His latest album, Interweaving, with soprano Gretchen Farrar, was released this fall. Francisco is currently on the faculty of the Mannes College of Music Extension and Preparatory Divisions, New Jersey City University, and at Lehman College, City University of New York. Francisco will perform the following pieces this evening: Preludio de Adios and Seis Milonga. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Alonso Montes, who's a Venezuelan composer, a living Venezuelan composer. Bolivian influenced band from the high plains of the Andes, and it's music from Bolivia, but it comes through the composer, the Cuban composer, Leo Brauer, who was also a living composer. So this is Danza del Altiplano by Leo Brauer.